ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So today let's begin with the 10th canto, chapter 8, verse 40 and 41. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastime is Mother Yashoda seeing the universal form of Krishna. So do we recite the verse or do we just read and translation? What do we do? Recite, okay. Kim swapna etad, so Kim swapna etad ut deva maya. Kim vamadiyo bata buddhi moha. Atho amushaiva mamar bhagasya. Amushaiva mamar bhagasya. Yah kaschanau tapatika atmayogaha. Kim swapna etad uta deva maya. Kim vamadiyo bata buddhi moha. Atho amushaiva mamar bhagasya. Ya kaschana utpatika atmayogaha. Kim swapna etad uta deva maya. Kim vamadiyo bata buddhi moha. Atho amushaiva mamar bhagasya. Ya kaschana utpatika atmayogaha. Like to recite.
Kim swapna etad uta deva maya.
Kim swapna etad uta deva maya.
Kim vamadiyo bata buddhi moha.
Kim vamadiyo bata buddhi moha.
Ato amushaiva mamar bhagasya.
Amushaiva mamar bhagasya.
Ya kaschana utpatika atmayoga.
Kim swapna etad uta deva maya.
Kim swapna etad uta deva maya.
Kim vamadiyo bata buddhi moha.
Kim vamadiyo bata buddhi moha.
Atho amushaiva mamar bhagasya.
Ato amushaiva mamar bhagasya.
Yah kaschana utpatika atmayoga.
Ya kaschana utpatika atmayoga.
Word for word translation. May the Vaishnavis would like to recite? Okay. Okay, fine.
Kim swapna etad uta deva maya. Kim vamadiyo bata buddhi moha. Ato amushaiva mamar bhagasya.
Kashchanotpatika Atma Yoga. We have word for word translation. Kim, weather. Swapnaha, a dream. Etat, all this. Uta, or otherwise. Deva Maya, an illusory manifestation by the external energy. Kimva, or else. Madiyaha, my personal. Bata, indeed. Buddhimoha, illusion of intelligence. Atho, otherwise. Amushya, of such. Eva, indeed. Mama arbhakasya, of my child. Yah, which. Kaschan, some. Outpattikaha, natural. Atma Yoga, personal mystic power. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Mother Yashoda began to argue within herself. Is this a dream or is it an illusory creation by the external energy? Has this been manifested by my own intelligence or is it some mystic power of my child? Purport. When Mother Yashoda saw this wonderful manifestation within the mouth of her child, she began to argue within herself about whether it was a dream. Then she considered, I'm not dreaming because my eyes are open. I'm actually seeing what is happening. I'm not sleeping, nor am I dreaming. Then maybe this is an illusion created by Deva Maya. But that is also not possible. What business would the demigods have showing such things to me? I'm an insignificant woman with no connection with the demigods. Why should they take the trouble to put me into Deva Maya? That also is not possible. Then Mother Yashoda considered whether the vision might be due to bewilderment. I'm fit in health. I'm not diseased. Why should there be any bewilderment? It is not possible that my brain is deranged, since I'm ordinarily quite fit to think. Then this vision must be due to some mystic power of my son, as predicted by Karmuni. Thus she finally concluded that the vision was due to her son's activities and nothing else. So, on this auspicious occasion of Janmashtami, I'm grateful to be here at the lotus feet of their lordships, and I'll speak today on the topic broadly of what experiencing God means. Janmashtami is the time when Krishna appeared thousands of years ago, and we have an opportunity to experience Krishna. So here Yashoda Mai is experiencing Krishna. Because she's always experiencing Krishna. Because Krishna is her child, she is her mother, yes. But here she's experiencing Krishna in a way different from the normal. She has asked Krishna to open his mouth, and then she has seen the whole universe within Krishna's mouth. And she is now trying to use her intelligence to figure out what is happening. So generally, we as human beings, at least at some level, we need to make sense of what we are experiencing. So when we experience something extraordinary, if right now we are sitting and we're all hearing a class, and suddenly someone just seems to walk in through the wall. Hey, that person not here, how did they come? Is there a door over there? Or did I not notice that the person was actually leaning on the wall and just came forward? What exactly happened? So we want to make sense. Now, at one level, the experience of Krishna is such an experience that we can't make sense at one level. But we'll analyze what that means. But here she's trying to make sense of the experience of Krishna. And what happens is, she sees that, okay, first things, hey, could it be a dream? In dreams, all kinds of fantastic things can happen. So, Baldev Vidyabhushan's Vedanta Sutra commentary and Govinda Bhashya says that dreams are not governed by the laws that govern gross matter. That doesn't mean that dreams are simply fantasy. Dreams can also talk about some kind of reality, but they're not governed by the laws of gross matter. So, was this a dream? But then she pinches herself and says, I'm awake. It's not a dream. Then she considers two explanations. One is somebody intentionally trying to put me in illusion? Is somebody playing some game with me? Like there is something like April Fool's, is there something like that? Is somebody playing around with me, messing with me? So okay, but this is quite a remarkable illusion. It could, if somebody is messing up, they must have really great power. So maybe it's the Devatas who are doing this. Deva Maya. It can refer to Devatas. It can also refer to Maya Devi herself. But are the Devatas fooling around? There's some, like if you, there are some, what is it? Some amusement parks. There is something like a house of illusion. So you go in and then you see doors all around you, and then you know which is the actual door. Sometimes you go and you bang your head against what is a glass. It seems to be a door. So is this an intentionally created illusion by someone? Or she says, no, as Prabhupada says in the purport, why would the Devatas try to fool me around? What, I'm just a spiny person. What will they gain out of it? So then she said, what is the other explanation? Could it be that I am myself an illusion? Not that somebody else has created an illusion. Because I am myself an illusion. I made a misunderstanding. I misunderstood something. Am I a person? So you say, no, but I'm able to think clearly. I'm able to analyze. So it's not that I am deranged. It's not that I have lost my mind, as they say. So then she says, and is it that ya kaschan utpattika yogam atma yoga? She says, is it that my son has some special powers? Maybe that's the explanation over here. And she thinks in this way. So then the next verse will go on and say that. So he says, okay, what is the special power? Now it's the next verse is a little ambiguous. Atho yathavan vitarka gocharam cheto manah karma vachobhiranjasa yat ashrayam yena yatah pratiyate sudir vibhavyam pranatasmi tatpadam. So she is offering her obeisances to the Lord. So it's interesting that in Vrindavan there is always this ambiguity among the Brajvasis. Who is Krishna? Is Krishna really God? The Brajvasis know it and don't know it. So here, is this due to my son's special power? Maybe it is. See, when somebody's trying to process things and they come up with multiple options and they stop their options at a particular point. And what does that mean? That's more of the option that makes most sense to them. Is it this or is it this? Now, if we are asking someone else, then we wait for the answer. But if we are thinking aloud, we will not stop thinking aloud till we come to a satisfactory answer. Just, okay, this is my son's mystic power. But then, in the next verse, she is not offering obeisances to her son. It's the obeisance, the prayer is not in the second person. The prayer is in the third person. Therefore, I offer my obeisances to that Lord, not Tvam, that Lord. That yad ashrayam yena yatah pratiyate. Yad, that Lord, not this Lord. So why is that? Because she thinks, yes, if my son has some special powers, that must be by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, I bless it. So it's like Gargamuni, when he comes to do the name giving of Krishna, name giving ceremony for Krishna, he tells and doesn't tell. He says, your son is just like Narayan. So it's just like Narayan. Who can be like Narayan? At one level, in the past, if we consider Indian tradition, it would be common to compare. Say, for example, if a couple is getting married and they're going marriage ceremony, oh, this couple just looks like Sitaram or looks like Lakshmi Narayan. So it's a praise, but it's not meant to be taken literally. But on another level, there can be no one like Narayan. Only Narayan is like Narayan. So for those who understand the subtle message, they understand he is Narayan. But he doesn't tell that overtly. And then he also says, previously, he was the son of Vasudeva. Now that word, if you go to Sanskrit, Jiva Goswami has a lot of, you could say, intellectual fun analyzing these words. So he says, previously, now Nanda Maharaj takes it to mean in the previous life. But Vasudeva is not just now previously, just now Nanda brought Vasudeva brought this child. So he keeps that ambiguity over there. So when Krishna does wonderful things, the Vrajavasis don't immediately jump to the conclusion that Krishna is God. They think that, oh, who is this Krishna? He's someone special. Yes, Atma Yoga, Outpattika. He has got some special powers. And how have those powers come? They have come by the blessings of Lord Narayan. So Nanda Maharaj thinks, maybe I did some bhakti, Narayan was pleased. And that's why Krishna has survived despite all these demons attacking him. So what happens is, even when we experience God, at least here the Vrajavasis experience God, they actually don't experience him as God. See, they're experiencing God. It is Krishna showing his greatness. It is Krishna showing his divine majesty. But they are not experiencing him as God. In the sense that for them it's so lovable. Krishna, this is my beloved child. So they don't. So there is experiencing God and then perceiving that experience to be God. They are two separate things. And this is a theme which runs through the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's what the Bhagavatam is all about. It's like, whatever we experience in our life, how to experience God through our daily experiences. Parikshit Maharaj is cursed to die in 7 days for a minor infraction. But then what does he see? Oh, through this Takshaka, it is Vishnu who has made this arrangement. Lord Vishnu has made this arrangement to liberate me from material existence. So at one level, we are experiencing something, but bhakti is bhakti is the art of experiencing Krishna through our ordinary experiences. Experiencing Krishna through our ordinary experiences. The devotees first time went to India, or maybe second time. Many of these, for the devotees, it was first time after Prabhupada started ISKCON. So they had gone to Visakhapatnam. And they were near the sea. And the devotees used to swim in the past, but swimming was just for fun, you could say in a devotee language, it was sense gratification. And Prabhupada said, let's go and swim. And one of the devotees asked Prabhupada, that, is this Krishna conscious? And Prabhupada said, the taste of water is Krishna. Krishna says, I am the light of the sun. Krishna, Prabhupada says, you're talking about Krishna. Krishna says, I am sound in ether. He says, you're all surrounded by Krishna. He says, the fragrance of the earth is Krishna. You're surrounded by Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. Now, they were surrounded by Krishna, but they were not conscious of Krishna. So they realized that Prabhupada was experiencing that beach very differently from the way they were experiencing it. So Krishna consciousness doesn't necessarily mean our experiences themselves change dramatically. Yes, they also change. But how we experience our experiences also changes. So the same thing happens right when Krishna appears. At one level, it is like an ordinary child is being born in very difficult situations. Very, very difficult situations that they were born in Krishna appeared in a prison cell. So one of a devotee was recently telling he had a baby during the COVID lockdown. So he said that we had this baby during a lockdown, and Krishna was literally in a locker. He was he was locked down in a cellar, and that's where he appeared. So it was actually quite an adverse situation. And there also we'll see Yashoda, Devaki and Vasudeva. They try to process what is going on. So initially when Krishna appears, then Krishna manifests his magnificence. And he manifests not as an ordinary baby, he manifests as a baby with four arms, with Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, with clothes, with grown hair. And he's speaking coherently. At least initially he doesn't speak, but then he starts speaking. This is Janma Karma Chame Divyam. So now what has happened is, at that time, Devaki's and Vasudev's responses are quite remarkable. Now, Devaki, she started thinking, her first thought is, this is my child, it's come from my womb, and it is my duty to protect. She says, you have such, he says, she prays to Krishna, you are so effulgent. How will I be able to hide you? He says, please change yourself to an ordinary baby so that I can hide you. Now we say, can't you say that? He's God. You don't have to hide him. You don't have to protect him. He will protect you. So that is there. But at that time, the experience of God is so extraordinary that it can be quite disorienting at one level. It can be quite disorienting. So different people will respond in very different ways. Here, when Yashoda, she sees this, she starts thinking, oh, I start offering prayers. Now she's offering prayers to Krishna. So prayers to Krishna, but it's not actually offering to Krishna. She's offering it to Narayan. But then, slowly within her awareness, it starts coming, oh, maybe this Krishna and Narayan are the same. The gopis know it, the Brajavasis and the devotees in Mathura, they know Krishna is God, but that is not in the forefront of their awareness. It is in the background. The acharyas give the example that just like the sun, the stars in the night are very easily visible. But in the daytime, when the sun is there, the stars are still there in the sky. But the stars are not easily visible. So it says similarly, the knowledge of Krishna's greatness, Krishna's divinity, is like the light of the stars. When we are in the darkness of material existence, that light of the stars is vital for us to find our way. So it guides us towards safety, towards a safe destination. But the sun is, the stars is what? Knowledge of Krishna's greatness. And the sun is the knowledge of Krishna's sweetness. Or you could say absorption in Krishna's sweetness. So when that arises, then the stars go into the background. We don't notice the stars also. And even when suddenly the stars become visible. Hey, what is this? Where does this come from? Try to figure it out. So Yashoda, so Devaki is trying to figure this out. So I want to hide you. Where can I hide you? And as they're thinking like this, they just don't know. And then Vasudev's prayers are a little bit more sober. Vasudeva remembers, this is actually Supreme Lord. Now Devaki also remembers, but what happens is, it's like constant tension. This is Krishna and this is God and he'll protect me. This is my child and I have to protect him. So there's the ambivalence of emotions in the heart. And then finally, Krishna speaks. And Krishna speaks not in a small, like lilting voice of a baby. Krishna speaks in the deep, sonorous voice of the divine. And he speaks he says that he tells about their previous life, how they performed austerities, and then that is how you have me as your child. And then after that, he tells them what you should do. That you can take me to Vrindavan. And then what happens is the doors open and they all move toward Vrindavan. So that is the experience of God, which leads to here, Yashodamai, what happens? She thinks this Krishna, maybe Krishna is God. And then Krishna starts thinking, hey, this will spoil the rasa. Yeah, I want to have a loving relationship. I want Yashoda to treat me like her child. I don't want Yashoda to treat me like God. So he covers the experience. He unmanifests the universe in his mouth. Yashoda starts thinking, oh, what was all that? Whatever it was, Krishna is my child, I need to take care of it. And then they move. So the experience of the divine is often an extraordinary experience. And processing it can happen in different ways. The first most important thing is that we need to process that this is an experience of the divine. If we don't process that, then we may experience God and yet we may not experience God. It's like somebody comes to a kirtan and now some people are doing some music. They come there, they hear a little bit, go away. But some people come for kirtan and okay, hey, this is something special. Let me immerse myself in it. And then they'll think, hey, that's good, but let me go on with my life. And then somebody will think, that was extraordinary. What is this? I want to know more about this. And then they understand it. So they experience something special and they pass away. Yeah. What is that saying? One Western thinker says, most people, when they stumble across the truth, they are only concerned that they have stubbed their toe. So, what happens? Sometimes it's like that. We experience Krishna, but we don't experience that this is Krishna, that this is God, this is the ultimate reality. So, the whole process of bhakti is recognizing that this experience is the experience of Krishna. And what does that mean? So, if we consider the Gopi Gita, that is considered the crest jewel of the Bhagavatam, the Ras Panchadhyaya, are the topmost. They depict the highest level of love between what is possible love between the soul and the divine. And in that love, what happens? They experience Krishna. So when they are experiencing Krishna, how are they experiencing Krishna? Initially, it is that they are with Krishna. And for them, Krishna is their lover. Krishna is their loving. They're not really conscious that he's God. He's their lover. And Krishna has asked them to come. He's played his flute and they just left everything. Sarvadharman parityaja. Krishna mekam sharanam vraja. They surrender to Krishna. They go to Krishna. And then what happens is that many people think that what is the experience of God about? We think it is the experience of peace. I'll feel very peaceful. Or I'll feel great pleasure. But if you will see, while those are experiences on the spiritual path, when we experience transcendence, but bhakti, in one sense, the experience of God through the process of bhakti goes beyond all stereotypes. So the experience of God is not a very peaceful experience. As I said, Yashoda is confused. What is going on? Devaki is fearful. The gopis, they are with Krishna, and suddenly Krishna leaves them and goes away. And they're devastated. What happened? We left everything for Krishna and Krishna has abandoned us. From a material and a spiritual perspective. From a material perspective, they're abala, they are young women alone in a dangerous forest at night. That's alarming. From a spiritual perspective, they left everything to come to Krishna and Krishna abandoned them. So what are they to do? In the Christian tradition, there is the idea of the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is what? That when we just don't experience God at all. When everything that we think will give us experience of God leaves us empty and dry. We think, okay, by chanting I can experience Krishna. We chant and we feel nothing. I'll come to the temple and pray to Krishna. I'll participate in kirtan. It all feels dry and empty. So that is considered a dark night of the soul. That the soul subsists on the experience of God. And when the soul can't experience God, that is extreme agony for the soul. So we could say for the gopis, this was like their dark night of the soul. That they had left everything to be with Krishna, to experience loving union with Krishna. Not impersonal union, personal union with Krishna. But suddenly Krishna has left them. Now, it was literally a dark night also. Because Vrindavan it was night and it was dark. The forest of Vrindavan was extremely dark. And Nanandavan Champu, it describes that, Kavi Karnapur describes that the gopis frantically searched everywhere. Here, there, they searched everywhere. But they just couldn't find Krishna. And finally, they went so deep into the forest that they couldn't even see their hand in front of them. It was just so dark. And that was the time they decided that we will not be able to find Krishna. So they decided to come back. And they came back where? They came back to the banks of the Jamuna. And they sat down and started glorifying Krishna. Actually, they started singing the Gopi Gita, offering prayers to Krishna, calling out to Krishna. Now, if you just read the prayers, they're very sweet, they're remarkably sublime. But implicit in all those prayers, the 19 verses, each of these prayers has an unspoken, import. See, if we respect someone, we love someone, we won't criticize that person directly. Say, if we invite somebody for food and they come late, we won't say you are late. We might say the food has become cold. Now, what that means is that actually you didn't come on time. So the gopis, they don't directly say, Krishna, please come back. But through each one of their prayers, that is what they're saying. Each verse of the Gopi Gita is, Krishna, please come back. Jayatite dhikam janmana vraja shrayat indira shashvadatrahi daita drishyatam dikshutavakas tvai dhruta savas tvam vichinvate. Says Krishna, you are the source of such supreme fortune that by your appearance, this whole Vrindavan has become fortunate. And how fortunate? That even the goddess of fortune thinks that her fortune is nothing, and she has come here to become fortunate. And yet, you have made us unfortunate. You have made this land fortunate. You have made Lakshmi Devi. The Acharya has a lot of fun in these verses again. She's an outsider. She's not a Brajavasi. You have made her fortunate. We are Brajavasis. We are insiders over here. How can you make us unfortunate? Daita drishyatam dikshutavakas. You are our Lord. We love you. Our life is dedicated to your service. How can you make us unfortunate? Therefore, the unspoken message is, please come back and make us fortunate. So like that, each verse is a prayer to Krishna. Please come back. How can you have left us and gone away? Please come back. And the gopis' prayers lead to ultimately Krishna appearing. So this actually mirrors. So at one level, the gopis' pastime is extremely exalted. At another level, the principle is remarkably relevant for all of us. The same principle is depicted in the Bhagavatam at the start of the universe. When Brahmaji is born, he appears in that primeval lotus. And he is spaced out. He's in a space all around him out there, and he doesn't know who am I, where am I, what am I. He just doesn't know anything. And what does he do? He starts searching. He starts climbing down the lotus. He says, going down the lotus, then searching around the lotus, reaching out, probing. It's all dark. Just like the gopis, they are in the dark. So just as the gopis have a dark night of the soul, what happens is, Brahmaji is also having a dark. He says, no, what am I to do? What am I to do? But then finally he searches as much as he can. He tries to figure out, but when he can't, he comes back and sits on top of that lotus. And then he hears the word tapa, perform austerity. And then when he performs austerity, then by that he gets the experience of Krishna. Krishna himself appears and speaks to him. And that's a Chatushloki Bhagavatam is spoken. And it says Krishna shakes his hands. Krishna shakes his hands. There's no other place in the Bhagavatam where this kind of shaking of hands is described. Krishna says, yeah, good job. Now continue your good work. Now you have to create the whole universe. So the idea is that, again, there is the experience of Krishna over there. So for us all these experiences are, we all have many experiences in our life. And especially Janmashtami is a day when we try to submerge ourselves, immerse ourselves in devotional stimuli, by which we want to have experience of Krishna more and more. See, ultimately, if we consider what is the purpose of Krishna's descent, At one level, we can say dharma samsthapanarthaya. Krishna says in 4:7 and 4:8 that whenever there's disorder in the world, he comes to establish order. Dharma samsthapanarthaya. But then we can say, okay, Krishna establishes order, and after some time again leads to disorder. So what is the point of it all? What is the utility? Order is established, order is lost. So is Krishna's reason only for establishing order? No. Krishna's reason. So in 4:8, Krishna talks about we could say the outer or circumstantial or historical reason for his appearance. That's 4:8 in the Bhagavad Gita. And 4:9 and 10. So 4:7 and 4:8 is the outer reason. 4:9 and 10 is the inner reason. So what is that inner reason? He says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. So he says that the purpose of his appearance is to attract our heart towards him so that we can attain him. So vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa bhuta madbhavamagataha. Krishna says if we and focus on his pastimes, if we relish his pastimes, then we can experience him in such a way that all other experiences will become insignificant. We will no longer crave for them. Bhakti pareshanubhava viraktir anyatra cha. Bhakti gives us experience of Krishna. And that experience of Krishna leads to viraktir anyatra cha. I don't want any other experience. I just want to experience Krishna more and more and more. And that is how we attain Krishna. Ultimately, when Krishna says, remember me at the time of death, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that somebody can decide. Somebody says, okay, now I have enjoyed life enough. I'm going to end my life. So they put a gun on your head. Hare Krishna, shoot. I remembered Krishna at the time of death. I'll go back to Krishna. No. That is not the kind of remembrance. We may utter the word Krishna, but we will not remember Krishna. And Krishna says, remember Krishna. What is the process for that? He just say, Anta kaleche mamam in 8.5. But 8.7 he says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmarayantecha. That therefore, you remember me throughout your life. So the idea is, overall, that we all are during the course of our life, we need to get at least one experience of Krishna that is so captivating, that is so unforgettable, that will become the prominent memory in our life. See, we all have some special memories. We went to some place and we met some person, and that person was, it was just great being with that person. So that's the memory that we have. If we go to some tour and some sacred journey of India, and we go to Vrindavan and we have some experiences over there. So we remember those. Sometimes we store our memories in terms of photos so that we can have those photos. That's nice. But when Krishna says, remember me, it's not that hold the photo. The photo should evoke the remembrance of that event. So what Krishna is telling is that when you remember me at the time of death, that means during the course of our life, we need to get such an experience of Krishna that becomes the defining, the most relishable experience of our life. And then at the time of our death, when we are experiencing something very disorienting, we remember Krishna. That is where my shelter is. That is where my joy is. That is where my strength is. And then when the experience that we long for the most is the experience of Krishna. When we long to experience Krishna more than we long to experience anything in this world, then Krishna has no reason to keep us in this world. So that is what we need to do. Bhakti is not just a set of rituals. Oh, I come to the temple and take darshan. I was talking with one of my friends in Seattle. He said, I had introduced him to Bhakti. So when I was in college 25 years ago. So he said, since you introduced me to Bhakti, I have been regularly going to the ISKCON temple. I says, great. How regularly? He says, every Janmashtami. It's good. At least once a year is remembering Krishna, going to Krishna. That's nice. That's good. But that is not going to really dramatically change. That's like dramatically changes life. Some stimulus toward change is there. But the idea is when we practice bhakti, we want to experience Krishna deeply through our practice of bhakti. And when we experience Krishna, then that is what our heart will long for more and more and more and more. And then that's how, when we say, for those who hear about Krishna, the Bhagavatam says, there is no fear of death also. Madashraya katha nishta, shrunvanti kathayanti tapanti vidhastapa naitan madgata chetasaha. He says that the distresses of the world may come, but we will not be disturbed by those distresses. Why? Because we are experiencing Krishna, and that experience is so great, so fulfilling, so captivating, so immersive, that other experiences don't matter so much for us. And that is what we can pray to Krishna on Janmashtami, that he appears in this world not just to set order at a particular time in history. They establish dharma at a particular time in history. That is true. But he appears to actually establish prema in our hearts throughout history. So whenever we hear about Krishna, and especially when we hear about him on the sacred day of his appearance, we have an opportunity to experience him. And that experience is what has the capacity to transform us. So I'll conclude with one key point, which is going to be the main point of my class, but I'll try to keep it short. What does experience of Krishna mean? So generally, we may think that experience of Krishna can mean peace. Oh, I feel so peaceful. I feel so calm. I feel so serene. And yes, we may feel that way. But so what happens is, God is far bigger than our conception of God. God is far bigger than our conception of God. And that's why God is greater than all the religions that may be dedicated to God. Why do religions fight sometimes? Or even within religion, different groups fight? Because each group reduces God to their conception of God. And when somebody else's conception of God is different, they say, you're doing wrong. There are some religions which are saying you're going to go to hell because you are not following, your conception of God is not mine. And some extremist religions will say, not only are you going to go to hell, we will help you get there faster. So God is far greater than our experience of God, than our conception of God. And the experience of God is far greater than our expectation from that experience. Because I may think, oh, when I experience God, I feel so peaceful. Well, we may feel peaceful, but the experience of God may be something far bigger than peace. We may think, I've experienced God, I'll feel pleasure. Yeah, we may feel pleasure when we experience Krishna. But sometimes when we experience Krishna, it may not be a pleasurable experience. For the gopis, when Krishna has left them and gone away and they're frantically searching for Krishna, when they are calling out to Krishna, there's no pleasure. Actually, there is, you could say, the ultimate heartbreak. They have left Krishna, left everything for Krishna, and Krishna has left them. It's a heartbreak, but that is also an experience of Krishna. So that's why there is the the idea of general spiritual experience. I felt one with the universe. That is the common theme which people feel. I felt a great sense of oneness with everything around me. That's nice. That's also at least some level of experience is there, spirituality. But the experience of Krishna is far, far bigger than that. It can be peace, it can be pleasure, it can be oneness, but it can be much, much more than that. It's just like any normal relationship we have. If we understand that when we are practicing bhakti, it is not just about chanting, it is not just about kirtan, it is not just about puja, it is not just about shravana. It is about a relationship with Krishna. And in that relationship, in any relationship, if it's a real relationship, there will be a wide gamut of emotions, isn't it? Even when we love someone very closely, very deeply, but that doesn't mean that every interaction with that person will be filled with sweetness. Sometimes there will be differences of opinion. One of my friends is a marriage therapist, and he says that there are only two kinds of couples: those who fight and those who lie about not fighting. So, two people are together, there are going to be differences. Any real relationship, it's not just sweetness. There is the affection, there is joy, but there's a wide variety of emotions. Sometimes there are differences of opinion, sometimes, and then you have to deal with the difference of opinion. So a real relationship is rich with a whole gamut of emotions. And the relationship with Krishna is a supremely rich relationship. And that's why there will be an entire gamut of emotions. And that's why when I earlier talked about the dark night of the soul, that can seem, has God abandoned me? Does God even exist? What's going on? So actually, that absence of the experience of God is also an experience of God. Because it is that which creates that desperate longing. I want to experience Krishna. This is what happens to the gopis. Krishna is with them and Krishna goes away. They have experienced Krishna and then they no longer experience Krishna. And after that, when Krishna finally comes back, the gopis speak the Gopi Gita and their earnest prayers inspire Krishna to return. And Krishna comes back, and then the gopis are ambivalent over there. It's like, suppose we have a child, and maybe small 3-4-year-old child, the child has run away from home. And then we are in great anxiety. And finally we find that child and get him back. There's one part of us is angry. How dare you run away like this? What do you think you are doing? But the other part of us is apprehensive. If I chastise the child too much, he may run away again. So what do you do at this time? So the gopis are in that kind of predicament. They're angry with Krishna. They're really angry. We left everything for you. How could you have abandoned us like this? But at the same time, they're apprehensive. Krishna, if we get too angry with him, Krishna will go away again. So what they do is, they again use an indirect tack. So what is the indirect tack they use? So that's why when there is love, when there is love, there is the text and then the subtext. Every statement that is made in the context, like say, generally, if two people are very close to each other, they can speak a lot without speaking even a word, just through their gestures. They say, "Oh, this is what you mean." So, if two people have enjoyed a private joke, and then after they speak something which reminds them of the joke, so then what happens is they may be talking with everyone else, but they look at that person, and then they both of them remember the joke and they smile. So what is happening is there is always a subtext based on the relationship. So for those who are in that relationship, they understand the subtext. So what the gopis do is, when Krishna comes back, they indirectly ask Krishna, we would like to know about love and lovers. He says that some people, when somebody loves them, they love them back. They love back. And some people, when they love, when they are loved, they love back in the same quantity. Some people, now the conversation is quite elaborate and it goes into a lot of details of what exactly are they saying, but I just give like a bare bones outline. Say some people, when you love them, they love back much, much more. And some people, when we love them, they don't love at all. So he says that which among these three kinds of lovers are the best? So the subtext is, you are the third category. What kind of lover are you? We loved you, and instead of reciprocating, you abandoned us. What kind of lover are you? So when a question has an obvious answer, then that means there is another question underlying that question. Just like at the start of the Bhagavad Gita, when Dhritarashtra asks, when the two armies assembled for fighting on the battlefield, what did they do? It's like what kind of dumb question is that? Like everybody sat down to eat food after fasting the whole day on Janmashtami. Then what did they do? They'll eat food, isn't it? So, but suppose somebody is asking a question. Why are they asking? Actually, there was something else going on, that Maybe there was some special surprise was there. Just when Prasad was going to go on, some VIP guest was going to come and they were going to have some ecstatic kirtan. So did that happen? Something unexpected was going to happen. So Dhritarashtra's question is, why did they, who won? Actually, did the fight happen? There's some unstated question there. So the Gopi's unstated question is, what kind of lover are you? And what does Krishna reply? Krishna replies that it is because of my love for you that I left you. And what is the point of that? The point is that through this, you have demonstrated the greatest love. The culmination of love you have demonstrated. And thus you have conquered my heart. And in fact, you have won me so much that I can't repay you at all. So what does this mean? Krishna is saying, what is he saying over here? See, generally, in any relationship, if the other person doesn't treat us properly, the other person mistreats us, you say, why am I even in this relationship? Some people, they're just looking for reasons to end a relationship. And some people, even when there are reasons to end a relationship, they may look for reasons. Maybe I should not end the relationship. Maybe I should stay on. So suppose there is every reason to end a relationship. And even then a person stays in that relationship. That indicates that there's a real love over there. Now, of course, if a relationship is abusive or something, that's different. But when there is every reason to end a relationship and a person stays in that relationship, that indicates real love. So what Krishna is telling is the gopis, for them, they left everything for Krishna and Krishna left them and went away. That would have been sufficient reason for them to end their relationship with Krishna. But they did not. When there was every reason to reject Krishna, they still did not reject Krishna. They questioned Krishna. They were angry with Krishna, but they did not reject Krishna. And that demonstrated their love. And when they demonstrated their love, then Krishna says, you have won my heart. You have won my heart. More than anything else could ever have. And he says, I am indebted to you forever. So similarly, for us, when we experience the dark night of the soul, the dark night of the soul can be at various levels. When we experience it, when we are trying to practice bhakti and things around us start falling apart. Maybe our health goes down, maybe our relationships don't work, maybe our job goes off, maybe there's misunderstanding even among devotees. And we start thinking, what am I doing over here? Why am I even practicing bhakti? So I'm serving Krishna. I thought I will bring order in my life. But the order is going away from my life. What's going on? It will be the dark night of the soul. But beyond that, if there are all these things that are disorderly in my life, but at least I can chant and experience Krishna and I feel peace. But sometimes we chant and don't even experience peace at that time. So not only is that, we could say the material things in our life go wrong, but even the spiritual things in our life seem to be going wrong. And that is like among the dark nights of the soul, that is the darkest among dark nights. But what is Krishna doing? Krishna is actually through that giving us an opportunity to focus only on him. So we need to put aside our preconceptions of what bhakti means, our preconceptions of what spirituality is like, what spiritual experiences are like, and just open ourselves to the moment, open ourselves to Krishna in that moment. So Krishna may speak to us through our pain. Krishna may speak to us through our anxiety. Krishna may speak to us through our grief. Krishna can speak in many, many different languages. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj told Prabhupada when he was in charge of the Delhi project, the Juhu project, there's a lot of political and legal complications. And Prabhupada, he told Prabhupada, all this anxiety is disturbing my chanting. And Prabhupada replied, your anxiety will take you to Krishna. Your anxiety for serving Krishna will take you to Krishna. Now, this does not mean anxiety alone is the way to Krishna and we make ourselves more anxious. That's not the point. But the point is, we have to give up our stereotypes of what experience of God means. Somebody thinks that experience of God means I should be very peaceful. Well, no. Experience of God in the bhakti means a relationship with Krishna. And in the relationship with Krishna, we take responsibilities. And every responsibility will bring some anxiety. So even that anxiety in the service of Krishna is an experience of Krishna. Because that is taking us toward Krishna. That is showing Krishna that we want to stay connected with him. We want to stay committed to him. So for if you consider for Devaki and Vasudeva, when Krishna appeared, even before Krishna appeared, they lost 6 of their children. Seventh again, six of their children they saw dying before their own eyes, being smashed, a brutal way to die. The 7th, apparently they had a miscarriage. They didn't know that Balaram has been born elsewhere. So 7 children they lost. So losing one child can be devastating. 7 children. And then even after Krishna appeared, Krishna just left. And they had no idea when Krishna is going to come back. They had the hope Krishna will come back. But Krishna didn't say, I'll come back in 10 years, I'll come back in 20 years. He said to wait. But so was it that the few moments Krishna came and they experienced Krishna and there was joy, and that made all the other moments worthwhile? Well, yes, that's one way of looking at it. But another way is that in the longing for Krishna, they were experiencing Krishna. So in one sense, when you say Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we are a part of the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, and it's love in separation. Now, that is considered the highest form of love. Why is that considered the highest? That does not mean that a devotee doesn't want union with the Lord, doesn't want to be in the presence of the devotee. Naturally wants that. But when there is separation, there is an increase in the longing for the Lord. Oh, when will I experience him? When will I experience him? And that longing purifies us. That longing cleanses away, drives away other longings from our heart. And that's how we move closer and closer to Krishna. So the experience of Krishna is actually very different from what we may think is the experience of Krishna. So the Gopi Gita, it's not just the verses that made Krishna appear. We can also chant those verses. Today is a wonderful day to chant those verses. We can chant the Hare Krishna mantra. That's also wonderful. We can offer our personal prayers to Krishna. That's wonderful. It is not just the verses that made Krishna appear. It was the heart that was expressed through those verses. That's what got Krishna to appear. And for all of us, whatever situation we might be in, there might be trouble, there might be distress. But if we understand that, okay, this is not what I signed for when I started practicing Bhakti. Well, yeah, maybe this is not what I signed for, but we are still in Krishna's circle of love. In fact, and what we are experiencing can be the experience of Krishna. Now, how exactly will it be the experience of Krishna? That is where we need devotional intelligence. That is why we need guidance from devotees. That is where we need spiritual mentors. And then we have that, and okay, whatever is happening, how am I experiencing Krishna through this? We'll be able to see that. We'll be able to figure that out. And then all our experiences, even traumatic experiences, will draw us closer and closer to Krishna. So I'll conclude with this point, that when we are practicing Bhakti, rather than imposing our expectations, that this is how Bhakti should be, I should feel very peaceful, I should feel very joyful. No, if we can just keep them, I want to serve Krishna. How can I serve Krishna in this situation? If we keep that mood, then Krishna will give us the intelligence to see whatever is happening in our life as favorable to Bhakti, as we are able to experience Krishna. So separation can also increase our desire for union with Krishna. But when will that happen? When our desire for Krishna is strong. The desire for Krishna is like a fire. And, the fire is a small, tiny candle. And wind comes. What will happen? The wind will extinguish the fire. But the fire is like a giant forest fire. And wind comes. Then it will spread the fire. So we shouldn't think, I'll be separated from Krishna and that will increase my devotion. If our devotion is like a tiny candle flame, separation may extinguish it. So we try to keep ourselves in association. But sometimes, when despite our best efforts, we cannot be in association, we cannot be in a favorable circumstance, we can say that Krishna wants Krishna has seen that my devotion can be like a forest fire and it can grow further and further. So let it grow further and further. And that way, we will go closer to Krishna through even the difficult and distressing experiences of our life. So Janmashtami is an opportunity for us to experience Krishna directly through kirtan, through katha, through seva, and then with the impetus, with the impressions created by this experience of Krishna, let us pray that whatever experiences life gives us, we will see Krishna through those experiences. We'll seek Krishna through those experiences, and we will savor Krishna through our experiences. That is Krishna consciousness. So I'll quickly summarize. I spoke broadly three main points. First was we discussed the experience of Krishna, of Yashoda Mai, and of Devaki, and of the gopis. How this experience was very different, and it's not a stereotype of peace and calmness and good and cheerfulness or pleasure. So we had a variegated experience. And then the second point I talk about is that in the dark night of the soul, it is actually we are not experiencing God. We are not experiencing God through outer security and order in our life. We are not experiencing God through inner peace and pleasure also. But through that, actually, if we persist, then we can win the heart of God. Through that, just like the gopis, when Krishna abandoned them and they stayed faithful to God, Krishna, then what happened was they won the heart of Krishna. So the dark night of the soul is not God rejecting the soul, but God giving the soul the opportunity to show the firm intention. And the last part was we need devotee association, we need direct devotional experiences, so that whenever there are adverse experiences in our life, we can process those in a way that helps us experience Krishna and come closer to Krishna. Thank you very much. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki, Shri Krishna Janmashtami Mahamahotsav ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna. Thank you.